Me and out too.
Thank you.
You missed the build though, that build.
Yeah.
We got on Ras still. Ras felt the fire. 4-on-1 still. You holding it up still.
Held it down in the dunya for the accident, you get me? Malcolm X. Malcolm X proud. He's looking down smiling.
Soon sauce up day. Soon gonna be sauce up day still.
Yeah.
Because I spoke to him, something for optics. Yeah. And so he went down that route.
Blessings, yes.
You've got certain amounts of
That easy and real pain. Jenna, and old Goji.
Come on, family.
There, what she got? What she got there?
The Anatomy of Female Power there by Chinwezu.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Salute to that person there. salute. Oh, we're here. You know, we're here. Look out for the new Easy Herbs. You know, the clothing line soon there still. You see the jackets there as well. Easy Herbs all day. Bing bang.
Right, that cookie game out, I know.
And we declare that this is actually a historical moment. This is a 10-year visit. Many of you would remember the one that took place in 2012. And, you know, we'd say that they've come to the UK at the right time. The working group have come at the right time. It's a pivotal time. And our people of African descent, have been in the United Kingdom for many centuries. In fact, history proves that we've been here for thousands and thousands of years. And although Africa awaits its creators, we still need to ensure that our dignity and our ancestors' dignity is honoured, protected, and also respected. And this is a free space for you, a free space to express yourselves. Equally, we ask that you, of course, respect each other's experiences. That's really important, that we support each other, even if we don't agree, that we respect each other. We allow each other to have our say. And, of course, be here for one another. Therefore, I will begin this symposium by honouring our ancestors, giving thanks to our divine creator, and also just being thankful for this moment and thankful for us being here together. Now, with the permission of the chair, Ms. Reynolds, who is chairing today, I will ask the permission, and obviously with the support of the UN Fellows, who've gone an extra mile, for me to introduce a very special speaker tonight. And this particular person has really gone an extra mile to ensure that this symposium actually took place here today. I am a student, I'm doing my doctorate here at the University of West London, and I can say not only has this person been mentally helping us to get through with this, he actually
that has been taken is that in this country, the argument was one, it took a long time, but it was one, that there was a need to offer screening to all babies, regardless of ethnic origin, for sickle cell. Now you can imagine the opposition that there was to this. Oh, it's a minority issue, it doesn't affect the whole, we don't have the money. All the arguments you're hearing about COVID, all the arguments, they're just standard arguments to get out of really acknowledging that there is a need, and they do have to put their hand in the pocket and dig out some money to address these issues. So the big achievement was that the NHS now does screen babies, all babies, regardless of ethnic origin, for sickle cell at around the time they do the heel prick test, which is 6 or 7 days of age of the baby. Now this is I think we have to acknowledge, I didn't think I would ever see this happen. So I think when we get depressed and angry about the omissions in healthcare, so that it doesn't affect our well-being and that we become depressed and our blood pressure goes up and all the other issues that we are more at risk of because of racism and stress and everything else doesn't get worse, my thoughts are that we have to hold on to positive developments and pat ourselves on the back so that we can get that gulp of air that makes us feel a bit more positive, gives us that more energy to deal with the continuing issues that there still are. And what are those? So I bring you right up to date. I bring you up to, in fact, 2019. So there's no question that COVID can be blamed for this. And I'll just read you the extract. While encouraging progress has been made in the care of those
speakers to come on.
I'm Easy Herbs, represent Forever Family as an organisation that helps out with the youth through all aspects of life, you know. So with Easy and his main domain is science, yeah. So when we talk about mental health, I look at it in the way of hormones, neurotransmitters that get sent to the brain, yeah. So we're talking about happy feelings, happy hormones that are built within our gut. We're talking about serotonin, dopamine, that get created by microorganisms within our colons, yeah. So first thing when we look at mental health, we look at the external forces, the dramas that we go through, but we kind of leave out the main perspective, which is the microbiome. The microbiome creates these hormones, these drug feelings that we have, and they can manipulate our brain and our thought. So through our dietary, we have to implement good foods that feeds the right microbiomes, you know, and stop feeding the pathogens that breeds these signals. Serotonin, 90% of serotonin get created in your colon, 50% of dopamine get created in the colon. So these are all the signals that make you happy. Pathogens will breed on bad dietary, like KFC, McD's, all those hazardous foods that cause cancers in our cells, and then also manipulate and corrupt your brain. You got cytotoxins, which is glutamate, that makes you think that the corrupted food that you're putting into your body is necessary for your body, but your cells are not eating. Your cells are not getting them. The electrolytes, they're not turning, they ain't getting the nutrients for your body. Yeah, you're feeding them micro. So we need to look at the factor of dietary when we talk about mental health. And sickle cell now, just to break a little bit of science with that, sickle cell, we know it comes from the malaria. Malaria is the mosquito in Africa that causes hundreds and thousands of deaths in Africa. We know that through evolutions, the genome, yeah, which is the genes, yeah, the genetic coding within the hemoglobin of your red blood cells has converted to help protect and survive the people in Africa. So the people with sickle cell anemia, they will do better than the people without in Africa. But because we're living in a Western society and we're in UK, this is the reason why it's a crisis. So for my perspective in our black community is that when we talk about certain things like sickle cells and depression and etc., we have to look at it in the scientific basis. We need to know and we have to be conscious of what we put into our dietary because it's implementing in our health, our brain, and the way we move. I call it a suicidal death that we're living. So anyway.
You hear that, bro? Heated it.
And one of the reports we did was on Afrophobia, which was well received. But today, I just want to go a little offbeat, because there's something we need to speak about, and CJ is passionate about it. It's cultural rights, and it's about the Arts Centre. And it's one of our centres. We have the African Centre.
The Ma'at Centre, yes.
Yeah. He's going to speak about that. But we have the African Caribbean Centre taken away before. We've had our centres taken away in Bristol,
The Cultural Arts
Birmingham,
Centre.
Manchester. That's our cultural alliance. Where the community went to, they went to there for Saturday schools. They went there and had money finance clubs, legal clinics, everything. Without those safe spaces, the community didn't know where to go. They looked after the elderly. They looked after you from the cradle to the grave. Literally, they were the go-to safe space for people of African descent. We're losing them. It's a cultural right. We need those safe spaces back. So I want CJ to speak about the Arts Centre in Tottenham. That he's passionate about, that is under threat. So this now is a safe space. I want him to speak. And speak the truth.
That's right.
Is that all right for you to speak?
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. And it's great to be in the company of such distinguished members of the community and the working group of experts for people of African descent. It's wonderful to see you all here. Sister June has, in her inimitable style, put me on the stage. So I'm glad to be on the stage at this precise moment because I do have an urgent matter to share with you all, and that is in respect of the Ma'ar Ma'at Centre in Tottenham. The Ma'ar Ma'at Centre and Shrine to Mami Wata is under threat, and it is a very, very precious cultural resource for us. I'd like to actually just link this back for a quick moment to some of the reflections that were taking place earlier in their dialogue, specifically the question of mental health. And I think it's really important to find the right lens in which to conceptualize that problem. Here's a word. The word is drapetomania. Drapetomania is a condition that specifically afflicts people of African descent. It is a strange condition under which people of African descent find it necessary to free themselves.
Oh wow, why would they want to do that?
Oh yes. Yes, and that's a condition that many of us still suffer from. We have to find the right lens in order to determine what actually is healthy and what's not healthy. And we have to remember that the mind is in the body, as the brothers were saying before. And that the body is in the community and the community is in the society.
That's right.
Mental health, our development is a political matter. It is a question of power. It is a question of our own cultural resources being freed up for our own development.
Right.
That is a form of reparation. Earlier in this discussion today, the concept of financial reparations was raised. That is, of course, very important, but the trajectory of a given sum of money and the idea that it would ever qualify as reparations for the Ma'angamizi is beyond anybody's possible conception. But drawing very briefly on the inspirational liberation, self-liberation history of the people in this country, the people of African descent, particularly that organised the Stop the Ma'angamizi campaigns and marches, what I would like to do is draw your attention to that very simple but powerful slogan: Stop the Ma'angamizi. Before we can repair the damage that's been done, we need to ensure that it ceases. It was conceived of as what W.E.B. Du Bois called the rub about racism. It was a process that made money. It is about making money, and that money has been accumulated and is still within the banking system of this country. And it is, brothers and sisters, that banking system that has sought to pursue a course of action to foreclose our centre.
Wow.
Distinguished elders in our community have made contact with that bank, and they've explained to the bank that the relationship that the bank has with our community goes back many hundreds of years. And on that basis, the bank have been invited to enter into a constructive dialogue with members of our community. That dialogue will begin to take place, and it will be much more effective, productive, if it enjoys your support and the support of the working group of experts on people of African descent. Thank you very much. Save my heart.
Thank you very much.
There's some people over there that when it comes to culture, I used to go to the river with these people, a group of us dressed in white, and we do our African spirituality. This is something that the churches and different various religions look down upon and frown upon.
Yeah.
Our culture.
Yeah.
These people behind here, they're gonna wave. I love them because they're beautiful people. When we do our offering dressed in white, and it's a whole day we do this thing. But other people look down upon this. Yeah. The second thing, when our children are going to schools with their various hairstyles, they're told the hair at their very head is wrong, and they're getting sent back to sent home excluded.
Yeah.
And it's going to court. This is ridiculous.
And being banned.
We are who we are, and we're not allowed to express our culture. We would like for our African spirituality going back to have our own council. Where we can link. This UN is for real. We want the whole of the UN, all except for the African descent. We have looked 400 years. We've been split apart from our family in Africa. We need to be linked now. Link us together so that the various people there can link up with others in Africa, the Caribbean, the Americas, from South to Canada to Mexico. We have black people there. So we can practice our religion. To Australia too. The UN is for real. As I speak now, let it be done. Because I've spoken now into the atmosphere, into the stars, so it's going to be done. And the elephant in the room today is, when we call for reparations, we're calling for reparations for not just countries. We're calling for companies, families, and religions. 3 main religions. This is the elephant in the corner. 3 main religions. One we're supposed to be frightened to mention, Lord Voldemort. I'll mention the 2. Christianity and Islam. Right? And the last one, we know who they are. The chosen people. I'll say the Israelis, Jews. During slavery, these 3 religions, Islamic people started it first. Let's not beat around it. 400 years they started. I'll tip my hat off to the Europeans to a certain point. He admitted with it, but the other 2 are keeping quiet. Now going back, these countries here that made money, the royal family and all these people, they need to acknowledge they pay reparations. More than half of what they have to this day
does not belong to them.
Their powers should be, they need to pay.
Keep on the
Good afternoon,
I tell you.
I just want to thank the United Nations for putting this event on.
We talk the truth, we not tell lie.
So first I'll just start by saying, yes, I work in child protection and I've given my life to it. I've been in this system myself, being in care, being in a children's home. And like many children, I, left school, no GCSEs for many black children, I should say, and was valued, dehumanised, seen as less than, and not provided the opportunities to strive in education. Now, the work I have been doing over the last few years has been focused on a concept, on a form of bias, which is a manifestation of racism called adultification. Now, adultification basically means that children are not considered as being innately vulnerable. The innate vulnerability all children are born into, the innate vulnerability all children have. Black children do not, they're not born with that. Black children, from birth, throughout their trajectory, are seen as more culpable, more responsible, more mature, more adult-like. Therefore, their innate vulnerability does not apply to them. It means that in education, they're more likely to receive punitive responses. It means in criminal justice, they're more likely to experience criminalisation in a greater length than any other child. We see that in our literature, we see it through our research. It means that when we think about mental health and well-being, that again, black children are more likely not to receive a therapeutic intervention because they are seen as the problem and issue. They are seen in the lens that we need to safeguard others from them, and potentially that they need to be safeguarded, including them having the access to therapeutic support to allow them to heal, to nurture, to recover from the trauma they experience. So when I think about adultification, we have to understand the preconditions, because it's become a word, particularly following the publication of the local child safeguarding practice review to the experience of Child Q last year. It was the strip search of a black girl in school while she was menstruating because there were concerns that she was smoking or had smoking weed. Now, just to be clear, that was a safeguarding issue.
Of course, that's more than that.
If you have concerns about a child where there is potential substance misuse, you would think that there would be a child welfare approach.
Exactly.
Because of adultification, because of the inherent pervasive racism black children encounter in every single space they access, she was met with a child criminal justice approach. The erasure of innocence and the increase, as I said, in responsibility, culpability, and that punitive response. So the preconditions are racism and everyday stereotypes, which many of you today have already spoken about. The aggressive, angry black woman, all the racist tropes which are rooted and steeped in colonialisation, slavery, we know, aren't just something of the past, but they continue to play out in everyday experiences. And that means we have to acknowledge how racism continues to play out in the ways in which black children receive child protection responses.
Thank you.
So when we think about this whole concept of human rights, I would say that doesn't link to black children. That doesn't apply to them. Black children don't get to benefit from those so-called realities. The UN Convention of the Rights of the Child, Article 2, states no discrimination, that no child, regardless of their ethnicity, background, and other intersecting needs, should influence the ways in which they're treated. That does not apply to black children. Article 12 states that all children should have the right to express themselves. Black children don't get to do that because how they express themselves is misinterpreted purposefully, seen through a deficit lens, where they are then seen as being deviant. And therefore they're then not allowed to be like children and thrive and succeed in the way all children should be allowed to. This is a child protection issue, it's a human rights issue. And therefore when we think about it, as I said, through a lens of a children's rights perspective, we have to not just see this as, well, you know, these individual experiences black children are experiencing, education, police, health, children's social care, they're safeguarding bodies. Education isn't a statutory safeguarding body anymore, but it should be.
Yes.
But these are statutory agencies which have a duty to protect children, meaning that there is a dereliction of their responsibilities to protect black children from harm. If you are black children, where do you go to when you're seen dehumanized, you're devalued, and your whole experience continues to be seen through a deficit perspective? Thank you.
Thank you. Often, governments go through rhetoric, and the UK government is no different. And they tell us how wonderful everything is and what they're doing well. But then you'll find that the Ghana government, for example, will have something like Galamsey, which is illegal mining. And the people in the villages are suffering. But what people forget, we're all connected. You know, they say think global and act local. What is happening is that people forget that the rivers feed the cities.
That's right.
The food comes from the rural areas.
That's right.
So if you allow it to be polluted, we're all going to suffer.
Thank you.
You know, when they're mining these illegal, when they're doing this illegal mining, they're using mercury, arsenic, all sorts of things. It gets into our food chain.
Yes.
And here we are campaigning, and the link with the UK as well is that because the Eco-Conscious Citizens monthly meeting is global because it's online. You're having activists from Canada feeding into what's going on. You're having activists from the UK also bringing in ideas as to what to do. So we've got people in villages that I've never heard of, but thank God now I know they exist. Atronsu, they're fighting against community mining, which is a form of destructive mining, which doesn't help anybody. The Ghana government is thinking, and with the help of people like the UK who think they're the best governments in life, right? Asking them to, they're thinking of mining in a forest reserve, the Atiwa Forest. So we're taking the government to court.
Yeah.
So it's a class action. A lot of people, including people from the UK, destructive mining. And the contradiction is that they get carbon sinks. You know, if we keep the forest, which we've lost 80% of, you got $500 million just last year. So why don't you keep the forest? Why don't you have a green economy? Why don't you actually help the people? Why don't, we've heard about health problems. Why don't you encourage our diaspora to come home?
Best thing I heard is since, man. Best thing I heard.
Where you actually stay in the forest and take in nature. Why don't we do that? But then I'll end up with another passion of mine, which is fair trade. And fair trade is about making sure that the people producing the food
get a fair way.
Get a fair price.
That's right.
And it's something that, you know, we talk about being this place is a place for human rights, but actually it's one of the most unequal places. So fair trade is something that unfortunately I don't see enough of us in. So we have started taking back that space. For the past 9 years, we've been running debates. And what I'm going to invite you to is you'll contact the fellows and they'll give you the details. But the debate that should have taken place in December, for so many reasons, didn't happen. And now our debates are online. So the audience and the debaters can be international. And our debate this year, that last year's debate, which should have taken place in December, is taking place on the 2nd of March, which is during Fair Trade Fortnight. And our proposition is fair trade is not a critical consideration for trade or climate justice. So we are recruiting 2 teams, yes and no, for both sides of the debate. The no team will advance arguments about the limitations of fair trade, whereas the yes team will set out why the principles of fair trade are critical in the quest for trade and climate justice. Because it's about us being in those spaces and being heard. You heard Professor Gasjon saying that we shouldn't just leave it to now, but we need to be there. We need to continue the conversation.
Thank you, Nana Asante. Another round of applause. Climate change is one of my favorite subjects. Thank you. And I just wanted to commend Nana Hajar over there. He's just standing up. He's one of our UN fellows. He's also a farmer. So
farmer.
we're going to have to bring on a few more speakers, but I'm going to ask that you try to keep it light.
I've come here to just talk to you about some of the facts, and then I'm going to give you some opportunities to step into the solution. So firstly, I want to say this. We've got an identity crisis. Let us change the narrative. They call us a minority, but indeed we are the global majority because there's more black and brown people in the United Kingdom. I'd like to thank the United Nations Fellow Group on, of African descent. Firstly, I want you to think about the identity crisis of young people. Young black people are in a great need to reconnect. The second and the third and the fourth generation of British black-born young people oftentimes do not have a strong affinity with their country of heritage in the same way as a generation from the 1940s up to the 1980s. They oftentimes struggle heavily with that identity. Not quite being British, but longing actually to get back to the diaspora. But when they go back to the diaspora region of that country, they're branded as being English and foreign. But they're stuck in between this conundrum. You know, there is a longing basically for them to basically connect to their roots, to their grandparents, the homeland, but they have no tangible connection. Many hold on to the food, the music, the culture. You see them party down in Notting Hill Carnival. You see them listening to the lyrics. You see them all over the place listening, but they don't understand the roots and the heritage. They don't understand how to plant something in the ground and make it grow. They don't understand how to pull the people next to them and try to do things for service. They don't understand how to lift somebody up. I have to move because I'm passionate about the subject. And we're not passionate enough. We're not moving enough. We're not like rushing water. When you're rushing water, you're fresh. But when you stand still, you become stagnant and start to smell.
Yes, we do.
We have to wake up and move. Anyway, Listen, this is contextualized when we're talking about all of the problems through Brexit, through the Windrush scandal. It has seen incredible pain. It's been years of suffering. It has seen more unequal equity issues surfacing across the sectors of education, criminal justice, medicine, art, culture, film, television, and the list goes on. The underachievement of Black heritage Caribbean young people has been a persistent problem facing national policymakers in Britain for many generations. When in schools they label them with the bad behaviour and label them with ADHD because they don't understand the neurodivergent mind that is a superpower. I'm telling you, once they get the provisions in the school, but they don't want to because it's going to cost them £4,000, when you get a young person that is supported with the right way that they learn, they excel and they achieve. When I say real talk, you say true season. I got that from Chris Pretty. He says that real talk, true season. Say true season. Because we're sitting down listening, we have to get up and move. The new reality, I fear, will further compound this matter over the last 5 decades. National research has shown that Black Caribbean heritage pupils' achievements persistently lag behind the average achievement of their peers, and the gap is growing at the end of primary and secondary education. That means that we need to teach them ourselves. This underachievement issue is a question that has stirred emotions from as early as the 1950s. Very soon there's going to be a crisis in the UK amongst the second or third. There's already a crisis. Where's the youth worker? Talking, swearing. Real talk, there's already a crisis. And you see, this is bound to have a negative impact on income. It's going to bound to have a negative impact on remittances back to the national development of the African countries and the Caribbean countries. It's going to have an impact where remittances decline. Families don't know that they can potentially chop the postgraduate student fees by sending their children to study overseas in other universities. So you try to get them to do their MBA, go send them to Jamaica. You try to get them to do, go send them to Ghana. Go send them to get educated. Likewise, they don't know the various investment opportunities that exist in Africa, in the Caribbean. Neither do they know how to connect properly to philanthropic giving. There is also those that want to offer their skills back to the Caribbean and Africa, but they don't know how. There is a great concern also with exclusion rates for Black children and students. You know, our Black children are 6 times likely to be excluded. Did you know that? Than their white peers. This is serious. It's an incredible injustice. Once they're excluded, they're put into the Peru. Once they're put into the Peru, comes the exploitation. After the exploitation comes the prison. And then they reoffend and they go back. Speaking even on stop and search, because I've got to try and sum this up real quick. You know, 9 times more likely to be stopped and searched by the police. More than half of Black people stopped and searched by the police were left saying they felt humiliated and embarrassed according to that survey. Let me talk solutions now. All right, Vasilina's coming for me. I want to invite you. Investment. I want you to tap into Lloyds Bank. Some interesting things going to come with the foundation where we're talking about giving CICs investment with grants. I also sit as a patron to the EY Foundation. My company, the Safety Box, also does frontline police delivery and stopping all the disproportionality that we face with frontline police officers. I'm inviting this community to come on board. Link me on LinkedIn, Nathaniel P. Send me your email. I will get the police to send you an expression of interest. You can come and you can train them and tell them your trauma. If you've got a lived experience of all of that, you can do it. Let us get up, let us move, let us partner together, and let's create some action.
Chris Rock the Rock.
Make sure you link up with him though. Make sure the link up.
I'm going to say in closing that, because I might not get to the end of this, that we require secret weapons for a silent war. So the first thing is we got to take away our naivety, because we become very English and very polite in how we're addressing what is actually going on. And what we are actually addressing is the establishment. The establishment is an octopus that is interconnected and will tell us anything that we desire to hear, because they see us as children. And especially as African people. So we are the African subjects of a 500-year European black experiment. Now once you understand that, and you understand that the establishment is there to keep us as subjects, you will understand exactly why we experience universally, globally, the conditions that we experience. So when I say that we are now obligated to create silent weapons for a secret war, this is about effective leadership. You see, in all of this, what we've done is we've been speaking about Europeans and placing Europeans at the center. That's because we have been indoctrinated, but believe that we are perfectly educated. And the more educated you become, the more you will believe whatever they tell you. And in saying that, it would be easier for my son, who has dreads down to his back, to wear them in school if he put on a dress, not to be isolated. Because they're educated to believe anything. So, in saying that, and understanding that we have been indoctrinated, what we have to do is engage in a program of unlearn and relearn. So when I talk about effective leadership now, that leadership has to be of our own training, and they have to be trained to purpose, to work within our communities. They have to be industrious, and they have to be civically minded. If I were to give that an avatar as a man, it would look like Nipsey Hussle, who made his millions, how he made his millions, but civically gave back to his community, because there's a legacy of a music university that is comparable with an auditorium like this, that we don't have here. So we don't experience these things. Safe basketball pitches that have been decorated. So now, if you have training to purpose, just like investment banks do, they don't necessarily want your education, that indoctrination. They want to train you to purpose so that you're effective. What that looks like for us as Africans is agile project management, banking acumen, business acumen, public speaking skills, PR writing, and training these young people, men and women, around the board table so that they have an acumen to deal with negotiation when they're going to rooms and they're effective. Now there's a reason we're in the condition that we're in, and it's that we didn't establish our own institutions when we came with the Windrush generation, and we didn't train that leadership to retain them. So we use unkind terms. I'm going to say something that we don't often acknowledge. Truth to power. Tony Sewell didn't start out that way. Kemi Badenoch didn't start out that way as an idealistic student. Now, because they have nowhere to go, because we don't financially reward our champions, I can attest to it. We do not reward them titles. They need somewhere to go to be employed. This naivety you have that you're going to go into a system and change it, you're green. And I'm going to say something else to you. Partisan politics is for children. The WEF is what politics look like in the 21st century, and they own both sides of the house. This is why my brother from the trade union, Labour don't need to talk to you because you don't have any money. That's right. When they can go to a building filled with billionaires with an agenda and both sides of the house, that slimy pimp, Keir Starmer, is going to be Tony Blair 3.0, and he is going to be Boris on steroids. But he will say everything right because Black Lives Matter was a moment, not a movement, and it was orchestrated by them through their system, which I'm just going to name the octopus, and then I'm going to stop. The octopus is the press, it's the schools, it is the banks, it is the employers, and it is all of those institutions in our nation. When you understand that cabal, more than likely have secret societies that have an agenda to keep us oppressed, kick the can down the road into promises that will not happen. And it will not happen until we start funding us as a culture. What that looks like is AIPAC, the American-Israeli Public Affairs Committee in the States, who liaise with politicians, business people fundraise, if you don't do a groveling speech to them, you are not going to become the President of the United States of America. That is an interconnected team sport to circumvent anti-Semitism, because racism is a team sport. Let our term be Afrophobia. Let us universally adopt it as Africans in a black experiment, not of our own creation. Thank you.
The social media influence on many platforms, from grassroots news to mainstream media. Respect creates multimedia content from music to video editing. He captures, edits and creates exclusive content such as music and viral videos, which are often voluntarily. He's posted on various social media platforms. He's independently owned brands such as Respect Official on YouTube and Instagram, and the Lions Den has pioneered an open online conference platform movement, which has spearheaded a trend in the online live streaming world.
Yes. Big up everybody who got out there soon, and keep it straight to the point. Yeah. Forever? Family. What are we forever? Family. Forever? Family. Nah, me, I don't have any OBEs, but I do have PTSD from living in a racist system since a youth. So I reckon I can just give a little bit of an insight into the voice of the voiceless. I'm talking for the youth that have moms with drug addictions, the youth that came up in abusive households, the youth a lot of the young boys who were sexually abused and have never spoken about it, but it played out in violent behaviour amongst other youth, and they're demonized instead of understood. But if it's youth from another culture doing the same behaviours, all of a sudden we need to understand what's happening with the children. So I'm talking about media, and the media likes to promote young black youth as adults. But if it's a young white, make sure you know that that's a child that they're speaking about, and they call it adultification. It's one of the reasons why Child Q was strict, I'm sure you've already heard about. So basically, I just want to clarify something that was said earlier. As far as I know, there's little or no funding that's been given to real grassroots organisations on the ground doing the work for the community. Little or no. We are a self-funded organisation, and what we do is we train the community into knowing self-defence, knowing first aid, and the first aid training, if you get your first aid qualification, it doesn't teach you what to do if someone gets stabbed. So what we've done is we've added the knowledge that if someone gets stabbed, show people what to do if police stop and search someone. So if police stop and search someone, stay calm, film them, take their badge, take their badge number, take their license plate, and we have our own database that police and the police ourselves. So anyone's heard about the officer that got caught for rape the other day, if we had been creating a database, when we're getting stopped and searched, we might have been able to prevent some of the future victims. That's Police to Police Global. I'm flying through this quickly. With the media as well, I don't know if you lot know, out of all of the Black Lives Matter protests globally, there was only one place where there was an anti-Black Lives Matter protest, and that was the UK, where we had thousands of racists. We had thousands of racists attack innocent men, women, and children, and that's why. And we was down there. I was bleeding. So I'm someone who was injured in that situation in protecting innocent men, women, and children that wanted to peacefully protest. And there's no other country where you've heard of that who was being surrounded from all sides, and it was fighting the police. And there was a completely media blackout. Fast forward to the 1st of August, where we launched and we marched peacefully from Clapham Junction to Brixton. The police stated that there was no violence and it was one of the most peaceful days, but the media decided to brand me as the new face of race hate. As a paramilitary, as something negative, when all we do is we stop young boys from killing each other. All we do is everyone one in this room, if your child is being bullied, will turn up and try to get against the bullying. Yeah. All we do is support those who need it most, which have been failed by the racist system we live in. That's all we do. But yet we've branded the new faces of race hate. I'm gonna just fly through this a little bit. Sorry, this thing here. Yeah. Yeah. So what the media doesn't realise is what they're calling the worst came from families that have been emotionally, physically, and sometimes sexually abused. Yeah. Parents with a lack of parenting skills, parents with drug addictions, and parents on low income. So that's why we need the village. Yeah. Because one thing I'm saying to you lot, yeah, as much as I've got respect for the UN people, then we can't be looking to anyone else to save us. We save ourselves. Yeah? We as black men. As black men, we used to go to war. We used to go to war to protect our community. Our children die now. What do? We post it on a story. We post it on a story. That's the most that black men do in 2022. They've conditioned us. So that's why we created this emblem so that we can ride out for you. We can ride out for you because we can't all be out there. Some of us have got 9 to 5s. Some of us are raising children. Some of us are abroad. So we are there to represent the people that can't be there in these situations. Because we cannot be... We can't let them minimalize us to men that when something happens in our community, the most we can do is post it on a story. We have to put boots on the ground and they have to see us when the community. Alright, so I know I've got you right now, yeah. I can feel the eyes on the back of my head, you know. So okay, stats, yeah. In 2021, we had 40 teenage deaths, 40 of our teenagers died. Yeah, in 2022 we chopped that down to 20. Yeah, it's still too many, but 20. Media blackout. The media doesn't want to promote it. They just want to promote our trauma. And the more you promote our trauma, the more the trauma plays out. And the more you promote all of these positive people, positive organizations, and positive parents doing positive stuff, is the more positive stuff is going to happen. The media knows exactly what it's doing when it promotes only trauma and doesn't promote the positive. And we need the funding for the organizations and the community groups that are doing the work on the ground. Finally, the fire station, a fire service brother took his life the other day, yeah, because of racism, and there's been a new report that shows that there's institutional racism within the fire service. Yeah. So we're actually working with the fire service to fight that right now. Sociology teaches that poverty breeds crime and crime breeds violence, so they know exactly what's happening and they know exactly how to breed the violence, and they know that if we create more opportunities, there's going to be less crime and less violence. They know that. And the last thing I would say is, as a community, yeah, we just need to respond collectively and understand that Marcus Garvey said, rise up, ye mighty people, and accomplish what you will. Yeah? Rise up, ye mighty people, and accomplish what you will. We can't blame this one, we can't blame that one. We must collectively be the change that we want to see in our community. Yeah. Finally, we're forever family.
We're forever family.
Here to set the people free.
Here to set the people free. I don't know what you've been told.
Families taking back these roads.
Families taking back these roads.
Our children will be protected.
Our children will be protected.
Our elders will be respected.
Our elders will be respected.
It's all for one and one for all.
We're all for one and one for all.
If you touch one, then you touch all.
If you touch one, then you touch all.
Stand up.
Stand up.
Rise up.
Rise up.
Stand up.
Stand up.
Family.
What can I say? Brother Respect, thank you so much. We only have 4 speakers left.
What do you call it? In court, they call it discovery.
Okay.
So when you watch Batman, and they said like the mix of the toxins, the original Batman, the first one, and they said the deodorants and the mix of the things, it's called discovery, where they're obligated to tell you. So they tell you, and we just watch it, it's a film, because everything is bang bang.
Yeah.
It's called discovery.
And it's one of the laws that they pass by. They have to
it's a universal law of discovery that they're obligated to do. But then no, you're not got this.
Mad. Real talks. The gut is the earth. Intestines, small intestines, large intestines, microbiome. No, easy herbs, keep on doing it still. But check out the clothing though. Easy herbs. All day, bing bang. What's the summary? You reckon it was a positive outcome, and do you think the next 10 years is going to change anything?
And to hear from the community has to represent absolutely everybody.
Yeah. And to cut this out because you wanted to talk majority of the time with introductions.
Yeah, I feel like half of the time when she was just like, yeah, like this is my experience. Oh, I met this
Yeah, it's
person
always
this way. Oh, I did
experiences,
this.
yeah.
It's like me. It's like, oh, no, right.
Let people just speak. Let them words introduce
It's emotional.
And you gotta be grateful for the youth that did come because there's a lot of youth who are not here. So the people who actually went out their way to be here, you don't know who they're gonna be the next year. And you can understand why they don't want to be here.
There's a disconnect between the youth and the elders, and that's definitely shown on that one there.
This is the thing, it goes to show you what they prioritize.
Disconnection.
Every 10 years coming here, what are you going to do? 10 years time is going to get worse. You understand?
What has changed?
And the thing is, if we're not smart enough to implement things in that 10 years time, we'll be shrewd enough to come back here. Do you understand what I'm trying to say? To have dialogue. We have to understand, listen, the questions that these people were asking, I can see there's disconnected. They don't have the same experiences.
Yes.
Yeah? The questions they was raising about your culture.